Good morning to all of you. Notwithstanding the thin attendance, even if you have a right audience, your effort is worth it. So, in my presentation, this was aimed at the three services, officers from the three services, especially the IDS, and we have included proposed some tasks for the CENJOs to take the research forward in this presentation. So for in NDMA, we have this saying, it's a whole government, whole community approach. So disaster management through maritime power, for us, the maritime power is a very big word, and disaster itself, the entire coastal domain of the country is now infested with frequent disasters. So we are now entering an era where because of the climate change, because of the coastal erosion, because of our exposed vulnerabilities, we will face disasters, especially in the coastal areas, very frequently. This is a brief agenda which I am going to talk in next 10 to 12 minutes. A lot of people have got, I thought I will just clarify one thing, what we define as a disaster. For us, the disaster has a very specific definition: poses threat or potential threat to life, critical infrastructure, property, and environment. And it causes disruption of community lifelines and has capacity to overwhelm the response system. So this is the definition of the disaster. So anything which comes under the ambit of this definition, we need to respond. And what is the response? Response for us means delivery of emergency support functions to the affected people. In this presentation, I will be using the standard terminology which we use in the disaster management, like ESF, emergency support functions, putting core capabilities of diverse resource agencies to use, coordinated efforts of stakeholders, government department, NGOs, and community groups. So the response is a combination of all these. These are the guiding documents in the country for disaster management and emergency response. We issued, first of all, the Disaster Management Act of 2005, which is a beautiful act, which empowers the states and the central authorities to undertake disaster management in the country. 2009 policy on disaster management, then we have 2010 National Disaster Management Guidelines on Incident Response Systems, and then the National Plan on Disaster Management 2019. This is how we integrate all plethora of agencies, resources in the country into the disaster management framework. The IRS guidelines, which designate the Chief Secretary at the state level as the responsible officer, the RO, and the District Magistrate as the responsible officer at the district level. And it facilitates the creation of unified command. So when a disaster happens, a lot of resources from different organizations, armed forces, paramilitary forces, when they come at the disaster site, they are to be integrated under unified command. Unified command is headed at the state level by the Chief Secretary and at the district level by the District Magistrate. As I told you in the definition of disaster management, when a disaster happens, the community lifelines are disrupted. So what are the community lifelines? These are the 7 community lifelines. In any disaster, one or more than one of these or all of these community lifelines get disrupted. And when these community lifelines get disrupted, then we have the emergency support function organizations, which we term as the line department in the state, like your PWD, civil supplies, water works, your police, your SDRF, all these service providers, utility providers who deliver essential services, basic services, are the line departments at the state level. So these are the emergency support functionaries or the organizations. So in yellow I have, we were studying the system in last few months about how to integrate the military resources into the ESF concept. So we studied the US concept where it is very well established that the military support ESF, the term military support ESF, so it is for St. Joe's now to take this research forward and propose and study if we can have this concept in our country. Concerns dominating and dominating factors in coastal region. I work in the coastal region. I'm senior consultant looking after the 12 coastal states, capacity building in the response, emergency response. Disasters are more frequent and intense. Large disasters have associated secondary disasters. So you have seen in recent years that the secondary disaster becomes more prominent. So if a cyclone makes a landfall near Chennai, the leakage in the refinery and in later months, the oil spill and the pollution takes the center stage. So exposed and unaddressed vulnerabilities. Yesterday I was there in IIT Delhi. We were speaking to the experts there. So I happened to utter one word that in 99 Olisa cyclone, we had a huge huge sufferings as far human domain was concerned. So I told them that today our vulnerabilities have increased manifold. So this was contested greatly, but people fail to understand that over period of time we have created vulnerabilities in terms of critical infrastructure. Our villages have become towns, towns have become cities, cities have become corporations. So we are day by day increasing the our exposed vulnerabilities. We have got the new roads, new pipelines, new tank storages, new tank farms, new industries, hazardous industries coming. So they all are vulnerable to the natural hazards and will create a secondary hazard. So irrelevance of historic data, cyclones are now being, because of the global maritime heat wave, the cyclones are unpredictable. We are having super cyclones in Pacific and other parts of the world. We can have those phenomena in our waters also. Gaps in capabilities and capacities, as I have told you, our exposed vulnerabilities have multiplied, but our capacities and capabilities have not in that ratio. Decision making in disaster scenario is becoming more and more complex, with the district collector and the chief secretary handling 40, 50 organizations and resources. It has become very complex phenomena, and decision making which often delays the response and the relief work. We are unable to get into the window of opportunity or the golden hour of emergency response. There is no point in extracting dead bodies from a disaster zone. We all work to save lives. Lack of specialized response capabilities, especially when we are the leading producers of chemicals and petrochemicals in the world. We have thousands of tank farms, thousands of kilometers of chemical and petroleum pipelines, thousands of chemical tankers are plying on the road, in coastal highways, in cities. So our specialized response to cater for these emergencies is very limited. Unforeseen constraints and challenges are, as the disaster multiply, we enter into disaster zones, we encounter these unforeseen constraints, limitations, and challenges. I thought we will have a lot of armed forces people here to give a small comparison of how a battle space and the disaster zone, both are same in both requires the contribution of the national capabilities and resources at all levels. Disaster related maritime response operations, maritime search and rescue in coastal region, emergency assistance to ships, barges, boats, etc., aid to offshore E&P operators, Port facility restoration and support. As my speaker from BSF has told, Gujarat has got 41 active ports, and we have around 239 non-major ports. If you just leave the 12 major ports in the government sector apart, the 39 major ports are very busy ports. All kinds of coastal trade, coastal vessels, barges. So and they are the people who do not have any structured, organized emergency response set up in place. So if a disaster strikes there, the entire domain will be badly hit. So there we need armed forces, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Army, and the Air Force, all to help the local administration to restart the ports facility, restore activities there. Diving, salvage, and removal of wreckage. We have seen in 98 cyclone, June 98 cyclone, around more than 50 vessels were grounded off Vadina. Similarly, in Kandla port, it took almost 3 months to restore the operations of the Kandla port. So if this happens now, the economy will be hit a lot. Not only economy, our essential supplies will be hit badly. Other maritime contingencies, and the crux of this slide is the last point, emergency assistance to shore authorities in incident stabilization. So when disaster happens for us, incident stabilization is a big domain. It's a technical word. We set up incident stabilization goals, and we integrate armed forces resources in getting those incident objectives. When I say incident, for me, incident is a technical word. We don't call it disaster. We don't call it emergency. Disaster emergency under the International Incident Command System is called an incident. So when during my discourse now, if I use the word incident, it means it translates into disaster. So operational support, as we prima facie see that the Navy and Coast Guard and the other organization will give us the aircraft and vessels, but more importantly, we are looking, seeing the historic data, how the Kandla port, the Gulf of Kutch was completely ravaged during 98 cyclone. We are now looking for teams who can help movement, who can help staging, distribution. Why I have put staging? Because when a disaster happens nowadays, there is no dearth of resources. Resources will come from all across the world. So when the earthquake happened in Nepal, the resources came from all over the world. And when the second tremor, the second earthquake came, all the aircraft which landed the containers at the airport, they took off, and the teams went off, and leaving hundreds of containers at the airport without the local authorities knowing what is there inside these containers, whether medicines or clothes or relief material. So this will happen in our scenario also. If something happens, the staging of these resources will become a problem. We'll request armed forces to take over the job of staging. I will quickly rush through these slides. Transportation to deliver the response team equipment in the incident area, which is again a very big challenge. The roads will be blocked, the railway lines will be blocked in a major cyclone, major earthquake like Bhuj. So we need incident teams to reach there. There, the local military stations, the Coast Guard station, naval presence can help us. Port facility, a lot of people see port in a different way. We see port in a different way. If you see the last 4 points, the multimodal transfer terminals, transshipment facilities, marinas, SE jets, and port landside access route is also part of the port. So when we talk about port restoration activities, we would like the armed forces will be given this job to first get things in order and then start the port activity. Port restoration activity over the shore logistic operations. When a disaster happens, everything will be destroyed. You won't find the contract people who are being hired by various agencies to run large number of services. They will disappear. So if, just a small example of Port Blair, if a major tsunami happens there or major earthquake happens there, what will happen? Oil spill, HNS scenario, grounding, collision, fire on board vessels, damage to port crane, infrastructure, control towers, communication setup, dangerous cargo spread, tugs and small vessels sinking in the port, mariners, foreign crew, port workers trapped, waterways unsafe for navigation. So when 98 cyclone happened, the Kandla port was completely blocked because of the wreckage, because of the small boats and vessels sinking in the channel and the port area. So the naval vessel could not enter till the Coast Guard diving team cleared all the cranes from the port area, and it took almost 3 months for the naval vessel to go inside and carry out the hydrographic survey. Armed Forces support, port designation as incident support base, operational modalities for berthing, transportation coordination, local shipping management. These are the broad terms. Operational support for islands, surge sea lift capabilities, command and control platforms for communication. COP means common operating picture for large number of agencies. The NDRF will come, the SDRF will come. A lot of other agencies will come other from the armed forces, so they need a common operating picture. Situation awareness, medical support, berthing of relief vessels, cargo deliveries to the remote island, the thing which we did during the tsunami in the Maldives when the Coast Guard ship went there in small islands. They started the generators, they cleaned the small filters, and then they restored the power to the islands and brought the entire community to life. Mass evacuation, accommodation and sheltering capabilities, salvage and clearance. Role of National Hydrographic Office. In disaster, you will see a lot of agencies which have their core capabilities being utilized in a very different manner. So we are looking for National Hydrographic Office to play active role in redemption of port activities, fulfill maritime domain awareness needs in coastal water. A lot of players in the coastal water will need a fresh data, a fresh hydrographic survey. NHO experience and data is valuable in oil spill response, HNS incident, impact area assessment. Like the Kutch shallow water picture which was shown by my colleague from BSF. In that area, if the oil spill enters hundreds of kilometers of the backwaters, riverine will be infested, and country's 70% salt is produced here. So how it will affect, where to put river booms, where to put blockages to stop the oil from entering those ecosystems. There we need the help of the NHO and the INCOIS to save and protect life of the critical infra through application of specialized services. This is the point where CENJOs can help us bridge a gap between the NDMA and the specialized service providers. IDS role, point number 3, geographic area of responsibilities for the local commands. Assign missions, formalize planning, operational goals, communicate incident objectives, and Air Force to adopt all discipline, all hazard approach to aid disaster management. And joint response operational plan with the SGMAs. Again, we need somebody to study the interface in terms of the joint operational plan between the SGMAs, NDMAs, and the central forces. Air Force to identify, Armed Forces to identify areas for interoperability, compatibility among central, state, and local stakeholders, capabilities, functional level integration. This is easier said than done. Functional level integration is what missing. Whenever a disaster happens, the spareable component of the armed forces or the things which are asked for, it arrives on the scene of disaster. But then it takes a lot of time for functional level integration of those resources with the state machinery. And I tell you, the state machinery is a huge setup. It's a mind-boggling setup of manpower, experts, resources, but they all get disrupted during a disaster. They need backing from the armed forces to stand on their feet again. Need for transformation, DM capabilities of the armed forces. One of the points which I have highlighted is identify key allies and partner agencies. This is what is done in the U.S. Armed Forces, U.S. Central Command, that they identify their partners and agencies beforehand and work with them during their mock exercises and drills. Adoption of whole government, whole community approach under the IRS framework. The armed forces have still not understood or adopted the incident response system, which is well adopted by the state agencies and SGMAs. So to be on the same work platform, they need to adopt the IRS system. Challenges for the armed forces: capacity to support sustained multi-domain operation, joint response plan, develop joint ability to restore and run critical national infrastructure like ports and waterways, integrated and resilient all-domain infrastructure, dual-use applications. You have got satellites, you have got VSATs, you have got drones, you have got UAVs. So when a disaster happens, we need all these instruments to come and aid and create a common operating picture for the SDMAs and the state emergency operation centers. Collaboration with NDMA. We conduct state-level mock exercise. We are looking for armed forces to come forward and participate in these mock exercises. Local military commanders can participate and align capabilities and test preparedness for effective response in their respective AOR. So when we conduct the mock exercise, despite the IDS support to us at the highest level, locally only a junior officer is appointed and he attends as a simple observer. So we are looking for integration of capabilities at the functional level, which is far from done. Focus areas for consideration for CENJOAS and the armed forces: preparedness and response, armed forces to identify allies and partners, joint planning and execution under IRS framework, dual-use applications of armed forces resources, building non-defense capabilities for no-notice incident. This is important. So participate in state-level NDMA disaster mock exercise, and requirement of armed forces support ESF. It can be from the engineering task force of the Army, it can be from elements from the National Hydrographic Office or the PRT of the Coast Guard and the Naval Diving Support Units, etc. We can have something, we need to evolve this domain in a big way to handle major disasters especially in the coastal area. So unless and until we do it, the armed forces integration, capacity utilization will be very low. With this, I'm finished. I'm sorry I have taken more than allotted time. Thank you very much.